Greetings. I'm the Reverend Jen Fenner of Epworth United Methodist Church. We're focused on generosity as opening the door to faithfulness and hope, and find ourselves in 2 Kings chapter 4, the first 7 verses. Here we're encountering Elisha the prophet and a woman who literally has just lost her husband and believes that her creditor or her husband's creditor is coming to take her 2 boys as slaves. She's told Elisha her plight, and Elisha replies to her in verse 2, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" She says, "Your servant has nothing there at all except a small jar of olive oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons and pour oil into all the jars. And as each is filled, put it to one side." So the woman left Elisha and shut the door behind her and her sons, and they brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. And when all the jars were full, she said to her sons, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There's not a jar left." And it was only then that the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." The story is so familiar in so many ways, similar to the way that Jesus tells the disciples to gather the food and they come back to him with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Elisha says to this woman who is by far one of the most vulnerable in her time, a widow, and a widow with children, whose husband has left her not a legacy, but a debt. And Elijah says to her, "What do you have in your house? Tell me." If God were to show up today and look you in the eyes and say, "Tell me what you have to offer," what would you say? She says, "All I have is a little bit of oil." And so Elisha says, "Then go to your neighbors and ask them for empty jars of oil. And don't ask for just a little bit. Ask for as many empty jars as you can find." It's almost as if the act of faith has to precede the provision of God. And the other powerful part about this story is that there is oil to fill every single empty jar that she gathered. If she had only gathered 2 jars, perhaps there would only have been oil for 2 more jars. But let's say that she gathered 20. There was oil for 20 jars, and then from that oil, she could sell it and pay off her debt. Somehow God always seems to ask that our faith would precede God's provision in abundance. And so today, the generosity that's talked about is a generosity of spirit that believes in the grace that God gives, believes that there is a way when it feels like there's no way, believes that even though it makes no sense, it makes perfect sense to go and to gather as many empty jars. Generosity that believes that whatever little thing I think I have, the last remaining little thing, I will generously begin to pour that in faith that God would multiply it. I invite you to imagine God standing before you now and asking, tell me, what do you have in your house?" And whatever your answer comes back, that God would then say, "Make provision for that to be multiplied if you're willing to trust me with what you have." God, thank you. Thank you that your work always goes hand in hand with our faith. Give us the spirits to believe in generosity and grace. Give us the hope to collect as many open jars, empty jars as we can find. And give us, God, the courage to start to pour out the little bit of oil that we have, that all of the jars would be full. Thank you that you pay our debts. Thank you that you free us from whatever enslaves us. And thank you that you don't do it alone, but that you ask for our participation. Help us to be willing participants, God. In Jesus' name.